And welcome back to Turnpike Takes. And today I am alongside Andrew Hefner, who has been covering the Ivy League, and especially Princeton over this Christmas break and for most of this year. So let's get right into it with Andrew taking away with Princeton on this conference preview episode.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dylan, for having me. It's been a rough start for the Princeton Tigers, especially off of two straight seasons, or even more than that, three straight seasons where they really had the best and most complete team in the Ivy League. Yale has come up in the past couple of seasons, but really it's been the losses of Xavier Lee, who was here for the last three seasons before he made his way to Florida, of course, where he's now playing much higher level SEC ball. Caden Pierce decided to sit out for the season to retain some of that eligibility. Blake Peters was one of those guys who graduated. And now it's really an extremely young core that head coach Mitch Henderson is left with. And they don't have a single senior rostered on this team. And it's come down to juniors Dalen Davis and Jackson Hickey to really be that driving force. Dalen Davis went down with an injury mid-November. He hasn't played since then, and Ivy League play starts this Monday. So I don't know really what the outlook is like for that. I think that they're Mitch Henderson has said that they're really unsure of how he's progressing. So we don't even know if he's going to be able to start against Penn this coming Monday. And it's been down to a lot of the sophomores. You've seen Malik Abdullahi become a go-to player, especially over the last two games. At the game I went to at Temple, he had a career high, I believe it was 21. Um, and he's looked really great, but he's dealt with cramping issues and some injuries down the stretch. Jack Stanton has been one of the best three-point shooters for the team in terms of volume that he's made. I would say that his percentage definitely needs to get better if he's going to become a problem in the Ivy League. But really, Princeton has a lot of keys. They've dealt with injuries. It's a young team. We know kind of already that this year isn't going to be a year for them to go out and win an Ivy League title or really maybe even make it to the Ivy League tournament. But that's not to say that a couple years down the road they're going to have a much stronger team. Just right now, going into Penn to start off, it's going to be a tough couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, honestly, as someone that's been just watching Rutgers, obviously as a fan, like they lost to Princeton last year, right? That was, and actually last 2 years. I mean, that was a thriller last year, where I mean Princeton was just looking like this is the peak of their program in the last decade, 2 decades or so, and just the inability to get to March these past couple years just really hurt them because I remember that one run where they kind of like beat Arizona as the 15 seed. I don't know if they won second round or not. I think they made it to the
Yeah,
Sweet 16. They beat
yeah,
Kansas
it
State, was
was
it?
Sweet 16. Yep.
Yeah, so
That
like
was with, but that was with multiple pro players who are now pro, like Tosan Evbuomen. He was on that team and he's now playing with the Knicks. And then that was the beginning of Xavier Lee. That was the year before Caden Pierce won Ivy League Player of the Year. So they kind of had all of those guys. Really, that was like their most prime year that they're going to have for a long time.
yeah, in this day and age of college basketball, it really hurts the smaller teams like these Ivy leagues. Like never in I really don't see Xavier Lee taking I don't never see Xavier Lee going to Florida before his senior year if it's not the day and age of NIL. Five
Yeah,
years ago, Xavier Lee gets his degree at Princeton, and maybe takes a grad year at Florida. But never would he like. How can you turn down like the $6 million offer, whatever he got from Florida? You can't turn that down, and
yeah,
that's a testament to how college basketball is going to be going forward. It's just it sucks. Like even like for Rutgers, Seton Hall, like they don't have the most money. Like there's so many Power Five teams that just have more money than them, and it's hard to compete with that. Like so, yeah. In Princeton, they're gonna have to. Mitch Henderson's gonna have to find a way to adapt in this day and age because the way this team is going, it's you can't build off young players anymore. You really can't because say Dalen Davis or Jackson Hickey becomes really good and by Davis's junior senior year and Hickey's sophomore year, they might get offers from these Power Four schools for $1 million or so and financially and just like for your career,
yeah.
you can't turn that down. So.
Um,
Yeah, it's off to a rough start this year for Princeton, but I really hope they recover in this back end of the year and going into next year.
yeah, and it was 8 straight losses, for the Tigers before they finally won a second game against Vermont. In overtime, they were up, I believe, 8 points or maybe more in the last 3 minutes and went scoreless. Um, so Vermont was able to force an overtime, and they've lost 4 of the last 8 games before that by 5 points or less, and it's really been a rough showing, and I know that Henderson and the entire team is really, really been frustrated by that. But that win against Vermont heading into Ivy play, especially with Penn, who their best player, they're going to be without likely Ross, who got injured in a Villanova game earlier in the season. But TJ Power, transfer from Virginia, and he was originally a 5-star prospect who went to Duke. Like that team looks incredibly strong. And without Dalen Davis in the starting lineup come next Monday, it might be a tough watch.
I mean, yeah, Penn took Rutgers to literally the final buzzer beater that hit by Tariq Francis that we'll get to later. But yeah, Penn's a good team, and but the Catamounts, Vermont, like they are, I I believe, the favorites to win the American East most years is mostly them or Cinderella favorite UMBC. But that's a big win for Princeton, just morale wise, just to get the spirits up before conference play really starts on I think Monday. They're 4-11. It's not good on paper, but remember, all they have to do is win the Ivy League. And I know right now it's looking like a stretch with the AL being really good and all this, but I mean, one little run in the me in the air, gain some momentum, and who knows what can happen in the Ivy League. So I do think that Vermont win speaks more than just one game to the win column, but yeah, no, as you're they're gonna have to figure some things out, but get that started with hopefully a win against Penn. And speaking of Penn, as I was saying, Penn took Rutgers. Rutgers, yes, our Big Ten team representing New Jersey, to the final buzzer right before Christmas break started here at Jersey Mike's Arena. And this was um, obviously a relief for all fans. I was actually on the plane, missed the game, right when we landed, put my cellular on and tried to see what the score was, and I was just shocked when I looked at it. And then saw the box score with Tariq Francis, his 34 points, career high through his career with NJIT and, of course, Rutgers. And this was helped by 15 free throws made out of 19 attempts. He was, I watched the highlights later, driving to the rim, getting consistent calls, and making this depleted Penn team, as you said, force them to foul him, or else it'd be easy buckets. And after shooting the game-winning three, it was a rebound by Bryce Torch, who sophomore had his best game as a Rutgers player. Did not score a point in this game, but racked up 10 rebounds, or my fault, 9 rebounds, um, and got a big-time rebound after 2 missed free throws by Penn, and pushed up the floor to Francis, who pulled from 28 feet out and drained the three with confidence. To which buzzer ran out, and yeah, he was water bathed on the during his post game interview, and yeah, we're really waiting to see this out of Francis. Francis just hasn't been the scorer that we expected him to be early on this year. Came from NJIT, as I said earlier, and he's supposed to be a prolific scorer. Led the American East in scoring last year, but really has not found his role early. And this was his first game off the bench at a Scarlet Knight, and he made a statement here. Michael realized, you know what, he might need a break. He might need a change of scenery. Bring the bench unit who needs a little more scoring help. Help them get over the hump, and clearly it worked, which is just great to see because in this game against Penn, really no one could get the ball in the hoop. Our leading scorers like Dylan Grant, who's averaging 15 on the year, 8 points on only 7 shot attempts. Harun Zerno, who before this game has scored double digits in 4 straight, only 5 points on 1 of 7 from three, which is terrible for someone who is supposed to be our sharpshooter. And then Jamichael Davis, 3 for 10 from the field, 8 points. So really, if it wasn't for Tariq Francis, this would have been a Penn blowout. But did save the day for the Scarlet Knights. And after um a satisfying break for the Knights, they took the floor once again at home against the State Delaware State Hornets, and this was more of a resounding win, I would say. It was only 65 to 50, but Delaware State was never really in this game. A few mishaps down the stretch kind of let the score be better than it was. But yeah, Tariq Francis, another 19 points off the bench. Emmanuel Gbole racked up 12 rebounds, and they're sitting at 7-6. And tonight, as this episode will be posted, Rutgers will be taking Ohio State at home to start their full conference play state slate. And it's a big game here because you really turn around the season if you can with a win. You don't want to start 7-7 with the gauntlet ahead. But 8-6 with some momentum, it can mean a lot. But Ohio State are heavy favorites. I don't see this being a win, even as a Ruff fan, and it's gonna take another might take another single player performance like Francis' 34 points to get this done. Andrew, what are your thoughts on Rutgers as you've been kind of watching them throughout this year?
Um, listen, I'm surprised that this team has really been able to um, hold on to these games and these matchups. Really, with the team that they're out there fielding, it's going to be different heading into Big Ten play, no doubt, because you're playing these Power Five schools that really have dumped a lot of money into um, creating good rosters because they can. And in the offseason, Rutgers didn't really do too much of that besides losing their best two players by far to the first five picks in the draft. And I will say, listen, like Seton Hall, that Seton Hall Rutgers game that happens every year, that was a rough showing. We know Seton Hall has been a good team all year, and it looks like they're going to continue being pretty good heading into the Big East. That's a really rough showing. That should be a closer game. Um, you've played Michigan already this year. Same thing. Not looking good heading into Big Ten play. 40 plus to, albeit a top three team in the country, but a team that is going to be facing a lot of the other teams that you're going to be playing in the coming months. So it's definitely it looks a little bit rough. I think that they're going to be able to scrape out some good wins, and I'm quite surprised really with the fact that they've been able to pick up 7 wins on the schedule so far. Because I remember we were looking at the schedule when it first came out, and me and you were not extremely optimistic that they would even get to the mark that they're already at. So we'll see what happens. I feel that there's again a lot of talent on this team. Who knows if they'll stick around past whatever this terrible showing in Big Ten play may be. But I'm looking forward to seeing if they can get some nice magical wins heading into Big Ten play.
Yeah, and it really pains me because you look at like obviously Michigan has been I don't know how many I think they have beaten more teams by 30 plus than they have not beating teams by 30 plus. I need to check on that stat. But yeah, I don't even care about that Michigan game. You know what? I had no hopes going into that. Um, but the one that just like it's just lingering in my head every day, I'll just think of it. That Central Connecticut State game because I don't think I may mention I was there. I was there in attendance. Me and my dad were like, all right, let's go to the game before we get blown out against Tennessee. Maybe we'll see a win. And no, blown out in that game. And if you look back on that, we were just unprepared. It was straight up. We that was a win that we should have had, right? We were just unprepared. We came with a mindset that we weren't gonna we didn't really take them seriously. But if we won that game, the record of 7-6 to 8-5 is such a big difference. Like um just such a big difference because mentally because you I don't know how to explain it, but it really is, and that's just gonna really pain fans because if you're sitting at 8-5 right now, you call it like not, you're a little disappointed that you didn't pick up any big wins, but you're not that disappointed because you didn't have a bad loss. And that's the issue with this team. Every year they have a bad loss. So yeah, they're gonna have to recover. They have a couple chances. Ohio State and Oregon both at home in the next week. But yeah, We'll see. And as you mentioned, yes, Seton Hall, that game against Rutgers, that's just one of their crazy to say this, 12 wins to begin the season out of 14 games. They're 12 and 2. They only racked up, was it 6 wins last year? I think it was. They've already doubled their number from last year, which is absurd. And I was watching, I turned this game on late. It's the Marquette game after. And I was just like, what am I gonna watch? And I saw Marquette Seton Hall. I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. And they were down 7 with 2 minutes to go, Seton Hall. And right when I turned it on, they just went, a spark hit them, and they went on a 14-0 run to win the game 79 to 73. Or sorry, 13-0 run. Amazing performance down the stretch, forcing turnovers, getting to the line, picking up big rebounds, offensive rebounds, and that was a huge win because Marquette is this year a bottom feeder of the Big East, and picking up that win was huge. After although only losing to 8 by Villanova the game before, it's just pretty embarrassing loss because they were getting blown out all game and couldn't make a shot. Andrew, I know, like this is like we've been hoping for one good team this year for New Jersey. You know, everyone else has kind of not been good. What players like who do you really think is gonna continue and help Seton Hall like amount more wins? Because right now they have a few guys that have been scoring a lot, but who do you like the most on this roster?
Well, if I'm being honest, I really, really like how this team has kind of come together. It's almost like they've learned each other's names finally, and they're communicating and they're playing as a coherent team. Because it didn't seem like that, and that was one of the things that I know Chase mentioned here on the pod earlier on in the season. It did seem like it didn't seem like Bud Clark was, you know, kind of understanding when he's supposed to be shooting, and it didn't seem clear what the roles were on the team. But now it's become there's no one real leading scorer. I mean, you could say Stan McCray is the leader of this team, and on paper, in theory, he is. But a lot of guys are splitting a lot of valuable minutes, and they're all putting in the work. I mean, Najai Hines, I think he's been dealing with a bit of an injury down the stretch, but he's looked fantastic. Mike Williams, Elijah Fisher. We know Bud Clark is heating up. It's just good to have um, a lot of guys who can really help you out, get you to scrape out a win, and that's going to be especially tough with these Big East teams. Stephon Payne, I think, has been probably the best guy to do that so far for Seton Hall this year. I mean, an equal amount of points and rebounds he's averaging per game, which is pretty good, about 8 rebounds per game to lead the team. And you need those kinds of guys. And especially against Creighton coming up, Creighton, a historically great program. This year, maybe they're sliding a bit, but they're 3-0 in Big East play so far. So that's going to be a real game to see. Is Seton Hall serious about going to March this year, performing well in the Big East? Because if they can beat Creighton, they can pretty much beat the other Big East powerhouses that are out there, besides maybe Villanova, which was definitely a worrisome game, I think, from a Pirates point of view.
Yeah, no, and what I really like about this team, as you said, how there isn't one guy. They play 11 deep, which, yeah, that's like average for most teams, but 11 deep is always great. And 10 of the guys play 10 minutes plus one plays 8 minutes per game. But 7 players average over 7 points per game. They are not afraid to pass the ball whatsoever. The assist numbers are overall really good. And if you have 7 guys who score 7 points a game right there is not a single game where you have to be like, oh, we have no one who can score the ball. All 7 of those players can score the ball on any given night. So say State McCray is kind of having an off game one day. Say that same game Tajuan Simpkins is not finding a shot. You have 4 or 5 other guys who can step up on any given night and
Yeah.
score. And as you remember, we were live streaming the first half of that NC State game, or sorry, USC game. Um, and I don't know if you remember that, but as you said, Mike Williams. I remember he had like 12 early on like 4 threes in the first half, just randomly off the bench. Just able to get the ball in the hoop often, and he only averages 8 to 9 points per game. But that's what I think Shaheen Holloway in his third year with this program has really hoped for. All around, um, a lot of chemistry on this team, and this really reminds me of I think this was their last March Madness team, the 2021 to 2022 team, I believe. And in this team, they had um 8 players who averaged 7 or more, with 2 players averaging 15 or more. So instead of having like a bunch of guys who were bad and then 2 or 3 really good players, it was really a consistent team. And you had freshmen, sophomores, seniors, and that's why they made it to the tournament. This was their last year to do it, and they're going to do it this year again, I believe. And it's kind of shows how to actually build a team in college basketball. It's not the main scorers. It's like the other guys, it's the role players who really make your team. So yeah, that's it for like our major teams, Princeton, Seton Hall, and Rutgers. But there are other teams like checking in for those teams in New Jersey, starting with Monmouth, who is sitting at 6-8 right now in the CAA. They are 0-1 to start conference play after suffering a pretty not the best loss to Campbell at home in this past game. They 68 to 65. Jason Riviera Torres led the way with 16 points and 10 rebounds. But after having a 5 point lead at half, they suffered down the stretch, which was really close down the stretch. But DJ Smith of Campbell contributed 24 points to this close win. And yeah, no, Monmouth, I really like them. I think I've said this like every episode. I think they are really capable of making a run in this conference. But as a team in who's a mid-major, they're always susceptible to bad losses like this one against Campbell. They were coming off a big win against Lehigh at home by 15 points, but they were not able to recover. Anything you've seen out of Monmouth this year that you like or don't like? Any players that stand out?
Um, I would say that their kind of performance, especially towards the end of non-conference play, wasn't great. The Quinnipiac um, game, I would shout out specifically like a 10-point loss at that stage. Georgia Tech, we knew was going to be a tough one. Um, but they got the wins that they needed to. Um, and I'm fine with kind of where they ended up after that schedule. In terms of players, I think Justin Ray is going to be kind of one of the a sophomore, so he'll be able to develop. Of course, maybe developing nowadays in mid-major teams means you're going to get good and then leave right after. But done a good share of the scoring so far for them this year. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting. I would say that their field goal percentage um, overall as a team is decent, but it should probably um, be improved, especially where your best players are um, kind of in the low 40s. So yeah, it's going to be it's going to be an interesting test for them. They'll probably end up towards the middle of the table in the end.
Yeah, I'm with you. And they have a pretty they have an interesting week. They have Towson first, which is definitely a winnable game. They're kind of at the bottom right now of the CAA, but then they take on William and Mary later on the 8th at home. And William Mary is 11-3, second in the conference, right behind the 13-2 UNC Wilmington, coming off their NCAA appearance last year. And yeah, so it's gonna be a difficult week. We'll see that William and Mary game will be a good testament of how good or bad this team is. But yeah, I'm with you. Middle of the pack team, I see. And then onto a team that you actually cover as well a lot, St. Peter's. The Peacocks are sitting at 6-5 in the MAAC. They are 3-0 to start conference play, tied with Merrimack and Quinnipiac, a team that we just mentioned actually. And yeah, St. Peter's looks to be a pretty good team for this conference, have some good scores. What do you like about this team?
I mean, listen, seeing Bryce Eaton come alive in that most recent game against Fairfield, um, and also I want to also shout out the Georgetown game um, that went to OT. That was an incredible showing by not just Eaton but the team as a whole. Of course, Georgetown has had their troubles over the past couple of weeks as well, and like coaching situations, stuff like that. But
That way, can we just take a
like
sidetrack for a
most
sec?
recently, to open,
That was
yeah,
that was crazy. The coach Ed Cooley throwing a water bottle at a kid after like I don't know who they lost to. I forgot what team it was. And then like after they missed like the game tying three or something, like threw his water bottle out of frustration and hit a kid in the face, like a
yeah,
little like 2 or 3 year old. He's like, that's crazy. That was bad look for Georgetown. But yeah, continue on.
yeah. Um, but most recently, the MAAC play started a little bit earlier than other conferences. So, I mean, St. Peter's is already off to a great start in that Fairfield game. Bryce Ian with 17 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists in that game was pretty good. Brent Bland, who had been incredible all season and still is playing great, the leading scorer with about 16 points per game. He's looked fantastic as well. They just shoot a lot and they miss a lot too, which is the only thing that's going to hurt them um, here. Like Iona, who's going to play today, and they've looked pretty good so far this season. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm excited to see what happens. They did incredibly well in the transfer portal, getting some rather like undiscovered guys. Ja'Kai Gupton, one of them, he's been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, but it's going to be Brent Bland and Bryce field goal percentage up. St. Peter's is going to have a pretty shocking season considering that they were really projected last in a lot of MAAC projections.
Yeah, Coach Bashir Mason has done a really like shocking turnaround ever since Shaheen Holloway left. Didn't really take a step backwards. I'm pretty sure they made it to the tournament again the year after as a 14th seed. They lost to Tennessee that year. Like this is post Shaheen Holloway. And the fact that he's doing this consistently, um, he's really adapted to the new system of college basketball. And that's hard to do as a coach in a mid-major team, but he's done that well. And yeah, they have a pretty, it's not really a daunting schedule ahead in the next 3 games. They have Marist, Mount St. Mary's, and Merrimack. And all three of these teams don't rank in the top five of the MAAC. And St. Peter's right now is the top three team. So say they win these next games, they're sitting at 9-5, 6-0 in conference play with a game on the road at Quinnipiac. Keep an eye out for that one. That might be a fun one
Yeah.
in the MAC.
Um, and I will say the wins that they already have over MAAC teams, the Canisius Niagara, 69 to 57 and 71 to 43. So with these lower level MAAC teams, I don't think there should be any problem working their way through the first couple weeks of the season.
Yeah, I think I really think I agree with you because mid majors always thrive when they have one or two guys that are really go-to scorers. Not like on and off on a given night could go off. Like Bryce Ian and Brent Bland are go-to scorers, and they are guys like that. If teams make it to March Madness, I'm not saying St. Peter's is there yet, but like those are the people that, oh, this guy could lead a Cinderella team. This guy could pull off an upset. He could go off any night, and that's Brent Bland. So that is something the Peacocks have to their advantage. I do want to move on to one of our struggling New Jersey teams in the Rider Bronx. After suffering another two losses this week, a blowout loss to VCU on the road, and a just heartbreaking loss to Manhattan on the road, 74-71. They are now sitting at 1-11 on the year, obviously last in their conference, same conference as St. Peter's, and it's just I just feel bad for them, honestly. They just had a really hard schedule to start. Rutgers, Virginia, Texas, Houston, even VCU in there. And then a lot of close games like 3-point loss to Coppin State, 2-point loss to Merrimack, 3-point loss to Manhattan, 8-point loss to Delaware. And their only wins over D3 opponents. So nothing really going for the Bronx. Um, Players wise, their go-to guy at the beginning of the year was Flash Burton. Flash is good. He averages 11 points per game, but he shoots it really inconsistently. But at the same time, how can you blame him? Because the team is not really that good, so he has to take majority of the shots, and he's gonna miss a lot because all of the defensive pressure is gonna be on him. Zion Cruz adds on 10 and a half. Um, but again, he shoots 32%. So yeah, anything that you see, anything about the Rider besides that this is just not their year?
I mean, it's a real problem for Flash Burton, who, um, like, he's from the area. He's from Philly. He was looking to have um, really a breakout sophomore season here. After last year, like, he didn't have a bad freshman season. He was playing like 22 minutes. He averaged like 7.6, and this was supposed to be his year where he could really lead a team um, for the first time. And although he is leading the team, he's not really leading them to much success so far. So, same thing, Zion Cruz. He's older, of course, senior, but again, local kid. He stuck around, um, and I don't know. He's matched his performance from last year. His field goal percentage has gone way down, like you said. That's the biggest problem for them right now. And listen, MAC is going to be a tough, tough, tough matchup for them. Um, Siena, Fairfield, Marist, Iona to start out, and then St. Peter's. So I don't know. They're not going to go winless. They're going to pick up some wins um, because they're always going to be more competitive in conference play, and especially in a conference that there's a lot of variety of teams and skill levels and players. But yeah, as it stands right now, definitely going to be a year where they're going to hope that they can hold on to Flash. They're going to hope that they can hold on to Zion and look ahead to kind of having a St. Peter's style rebuild, hopefully next year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Not much to really say on the Rider. I'm hoping for just a slight turnaround, something to be happy about because this is not their year. But moving on to another somewhat down year New Jersey team, we have FDU, our Fairleigh Dickinson Knights, and they are sitting at 3-10 in the NEC, and somehow. In the NEC, they are not even close to last. They are fourth to last in the NEC, which is looking like a bad conference. They actually, for FDU standards, this was a great week for them. I'm really happy with how they played because I was tracking this game and I saw it before and I'm like, oh no, not another blowout loss. Just give them a win because they were coming off like a D3 win against Lehman University, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And they went at Boston College. Boston College is not good. They're the worst power forward team in my opinion. Maybe even worse than Rutgers somehow. They're 6-6 on the year now, and they only beat FDU 72-61. That's improvement, and I really like that. FDU was this is shocking. Up 8 at half, 33-25. And I checked this at halftime. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna do it's gonna pull a miracle. FDU is gonna win a game against a power forward team. And no, they did suffer a pretty wide margin in the second half, 19 points, where BC kind of locked in and didn't want to be have an embarrassing loss. But that was a great game for them, and they're led by Noah Melson in this game, junior guard who's averaging 10 on the year. He scored 14 here, pretty inefficient shooting, but did get to the line a couple times, and he did lead the team in scoring. And yeah, and then they took this momentum, went on the road to Minnesota, traveling the country here, BC to Minnesota, and they only suffered a loss, 60-43. The offense was not really clicking in this game, but the defense, I mean, Minnesota, again, they're not the greatest Big Ten team. So for FDU just to have slight competition in these games is good. FTU again down three at halftime. If they can just put together two good halves of basketball, they are not a bad team whatsoever. Because Minnesota is miles better than, I don't know, Lemoyne University or Wagner, some NEC teams. So if FTU can take that first half against Minnesota or BC and just stack it on top with a second good half, they're going to win some games and they're going to shock you in NEC play. So honestly, like a great game, a great week for the Knights. And what do you think? What do you think? Am I kind of trying to find too much silver lining here in a 3-10 team, or am I onto something?
I think the unfortunate thing is that their 3 wins are all against D3 schools, so we actually don't know um, if they can win a game yet. Um, they have a good team. They put together for the first time ever, and this was interesting. I read it in kind of their like season notes, like game notes that they send out. Um, this is the largest, like in terms of size, like physical size, um, FDU team they've ever had. I think they have two 7-footers, um,
Wow.
and they have a couple guys that are a lot bigger. And FDU is not known for that. They're known for maybe being like sneakily good shooters and kind of shifty and good agility. They've completely did a 180 on that this year. And so then you're left with guys like Cyril Martinov, who is shooting like, what is he shooting? Like 47% from the field, averaging 8.7. He's one of those 7-foot guys. Um, but then mixed with some great shooters, Eric Parnell. Um, so yeah, it's a mixed bag. It's a really weird team that they're experimenting with. Um, they can get wins. 100%. They've definitely gotten better. Their opening to the season was rough with a 10 plus point loss St. Peter's and JIT. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Um, they can get wins early on. Chicago State, I wouldn't be surprised um, if they can deal with that, hopefully. But then again, who knows? This is the NEC. Anything can happen. Stonehill, St. Francis. So we'll see. Interesting as always.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I do just I saw something and I like it. And I do agree with you. I think to start conference play, none of these teams are that good. Mercyhurst 5-8, St. Francis 2-11, Chicago State 2-11, New Haven 5-8, Long Island they're pretty good actually. They're 6-7, but Long Island's pretty good. They were the preseason favorites. But that's
Yeah.
three incredibly winnable games to start the year. If you're looking at a 6-10 Fairleigh Dickinson team that's 3-0 in conference against LIU, who might be 3-0 as well at home, come on, that's a game you have to tune into. But yeah, to round out the teams, we have NJIT. Um, the Highlanders kind of just sitting. They're sitting at 5-10, and they also haven't played a conference game, so you don't have the best reception of this team yet. They played this week. It wasn't the best week for them. They've had better weeks, even when they suffer losses. This team was 3-1. They went on a long losing streak of games. Got a win over New Haven, and then this week lost by 50 to Butler. Beat SUNY Canton, probably D3. I couldn't even tell you. New York team. And then suffered a 19-point loss to Penn. But Penn, obviously, as we mentioned a couple times today already, is a good team. So yeah, I don't think NJIT is going to be an American East contender, but record-wise, they're third in this conference. So if they can somehow compete with Vermont and UMBC, there's a chance that they do somehow pull off like a Cinderella's team. Similar to other majors, they don't have like the go-to guy. They have a bunch of guys that can score on any given night. They're led by David Bolden, who averages 12 a night, freshman guard. So hopefully he can continue to develop this year and hopefully stay in this program and keep scoring with the Highlanders. But yeah, anyone that you see on this team, any like openings you see like in the schedule that can maybe spark some momentum and guide a Cinderella run through this conference, or is this kind of a another rebuilding year and take some of these freshmen and try to develop them.
Um, I think that they can beat up on about half the teams in their conference.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I think the teams that they're going to struggle with: Maine, Vermont. Um, I mean,
Maine. I don't think they're gonna struggle in Maine.
Bryant, maybe they're like, I guess. Oh,
I think if you
yeah,
Vermont,
yeah.
UMBC,
UMass Lowell, they'll be fine with.
yeah, I don't see the issue with the American East is that they haven't played conference games, so it's kind of hard to tell who's good, who's bad. I just know from previous years of watching college basketball, UMBC and Vermont are just always American East um dominators. Like every year it's who's gonna win the American East final, Vermont or UMBC? Vermont, UMBC. And like obviously we see the UMBC over Virginia upset. Vermont's played a few teams really close as like a 13, 14 seed. So I don't know how good NGIT is. They have some decent wins against like Loyola Maryland. Um Even New Haven's not a bad not a bad win. Fordham's a good win, but they also have some really bad losses, like blown out by Eastern Michigan, blown out
Yeah.
by Navy, blown out by Drexel. So it's kind of hard to tell, but they have some scores, and they have an easy conference besides like a few teams. So yeah, if you look at an NJIT team in the American East uh, tournament, they can if they pull off one upset, there's a chance they pull off like a miracle run, but not really seeing anything too much in this team. No major scores or anything. But yeah, that wraps it up for the teams. Anything you want to mention? Like obviously we already covered like any teams that you want to like have some final notes on with conference play just ahead, starting for many teams this weekend or next week.
I think that I wouldn't entirely be surprised if Seton Hall isn't completely the team that we expected them to be against the talent. Um, they'll beat most teams out there, but you know that Villanova game was concerning for a lot of reasons. I think that Princeton is going to have a solid season. They'll pick up some wins, but the Ivy League has a lot of good talent this year. Um, so we'll see what happens. And then for Rutgers, you know, they'll hang out like they usually do. They'll make the Big Ten tournament. We'll see if maybe they can win their first round game. Um, but yeah, I'm most excited to watch the MAAC teams this year. That tournament's fun in Atlantic City. So yeah, excited. I'm excited for conference play to start.
All right, well, thanks for coming on today. Keep covering Princeton. We'll have you on soon to cover some more New Jersey basketball. Thank you for watching. That's the episode of Turnpike Takes.